How's it going, everyone? This video is going to be over top-down analysis, and the one thing I need to mention is this is dependent on which time frame you're entering on. If I am entering on the lower time frames, such as 5-minute, 1-minute, and sub 1-minute time frames, I'm not really going to look for monthly or weekly points of interest to enter off those. Most of my points of interest lie on the daily, 4-hour, 1-hour, and sometimes the 15-minute chart. If I am, for example, going to trade or enter on the 4-hour time frame, then I would look out to the weekly or other time frames. In this video, we will go over how I do top-down analysis currently using entry time frames such as 5-minute, 1-minute, and lower time frames. So with that, we will begin on the daily and work our way down. So the first thing I notice on the daily is I zoom in to where we are currently and look at this price action. From here, I see we had previous highs, and then when we are above these previous highs, I look left and we have an order block sitting here, which we respected as we couldn't close above it. Then I notice after we reach into this order block, we start to move lower before news-driven events send us higher. Taking this high, we close back into the range, retest this previous high before displacing lower. Where are we targeting on this displacement move down? We have internal liquidity resting here that we moved, and most importantly, displace under. When we displace under lows right here, we want to see if we fall back into the range or reach lower. On the daily here, if we're going to fall back into the range, my point of interest would be right here, as that is where the fair value gap is filled, and then this block right here, as this would be the next downside target I would have. And I do include the wick to the open on these, as that is the most sensitive part. That would be my daily chart annotations, as that is all I really want to mark out or would be interested in. I then move down to the 4-hour chart. Here you can see we have that previous low, which we may retest, but I am going to move us to New York AM session, as that is what I trade. As I move forward to the New York AM session, what I notice is we have this block right here, so I will mark out the body to the wick of those series of up close candles, and that would be my 4-hour point of interest. After this, I drop down to the 1-hour chart and look for anything there. Not a whole lot to really be seen in my opinion, but as we move forward towards New York Open, we do get these candles moving out of this area. With that in mind, go down to the 15-minute. Now that I have my higher time frame points of interest on the chart, I will look at lower time frames from the 15, 5, and 1 minute to look to either gain entries reaching for these points of interest, or when we reach into a point of interest and move away from it. So the first things I notice here is we have a reach below here, a reach higher, and then this fair value gap gets reached into before a displacement move up. What I will notice is the previous lows before ran, and I would like to see those retested, but we have internal range liquidity resting here as well. So this is actually a move I missed during the live session, but after annotating it, I shouldn't have missed it. And if we notice after open, we reach below, run people out of their position here into the fair value gap, as well as off of previous lows. And then we get an aggressive move up. Seeing this, I think to myself, are we more likely to reach lower here or reach up for this point of interest? And to me, this point of interest makes more sense. So with this idea in mind, I'm bullish off the opening drive move. And from that, I will go down to the lower time frames to see if I can catch anything. So looking at the 5-minute chart as we move forward, you notice we have a nice little fair value gap right here. Now, if I'm under the mindset that we are reaching for this 4-hour block here, I'd want to see this being respected. So if price moves into it on a lower time frame, we drop down, look at the 1 minute, which lines up with the 5-minute fair value gap. So we'll look right here. Now, as we reach down to here, I don't really want to focus on just the 1 minute time frame, because the only entry I would get is after closing or retesting these previous lows right here, and I want to enter down here. So that is when I go down to the lower time frame and wait for a setup here, which if you notice, we reach into this fair value gap, this 1 minute fair value gap, we fill it before getting an aggressive move out here. This is where I'll look at previous lows and the box set up here to look for a long entry. And if you saw my last video, I mentioned this as well. That is what I would look for. We get a move, retest, and reach above here. Now, if you remember, we got to the 1 minute, I was saying that this would be the possible 1 minute entry. We want to see this respected and closed above to reach for new highs. We get a news event, but if you notice, we cannot close below this area, and then we reach for new highs. So that is how I would take a trade from one point of interest to another using lower time frame setup to reduce my risk. Once we're up into this area, I want to look for the 2022 model or other models, which normally look like this. But we don't always get that, right? We don't always get the liquidity run, breakout structure, clean fair value gap setup. After we get this drop, we are likely to be searching for these lows or moving to our other point of interest, going from one point of interest to the other. And that is when I look for lower time frame setups within mitigation blocks or other entries to gain entry. For example, we go to the 15-second time frame and you can see we have fair value gaps in here, which give low risk entries to reach for the objective. And there we go. Going back out to our 5-minute time frame, we are reaching for these lows. So once we reach them, what do we want to look for? We want to look for either displacement back into the range, which would lead us higher, failure to displace back into the range, or displacement continuing to the downside. And we put in this block right here where we fail to displace above and start to move lower. When this low is invalidated, I can look for lower time frame entries, reaching for that daily blocks open. So going down to something like a 15-second chart here, this low is invalidated, so then can look for some sort of setup short, such as a return to an OTE right there. And there we go, we drop lower. I do not trade the afternoon session, so I won't go any further, but that is how I use top-down analysis. I start at my daily time frame, go to the 4-hour, 1 hour, 15, and once I know where my draw on liquidity is or where price is wanting to reach for, then I will use lower time frame setups to gain entry. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below. I do my best to get to every single one of them, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.